I'm going to share with you how a walk in the woods transformed my life, started a charity, and can benefit you. It all started when I stepped onto the Appalachian Trail as a 14-year-old kid while on a camping trip with my family to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. We set up camp at one of the national park campgrounds. My brothers and I decided that we were going to hike up the highest mountain on the Appalachian Trail for the night, leaving behind our parents and a cooler full of food. Obviously, we weren't thinking clearly. We didn't have the necessary gear for this hike, so we headed up the mountain with our sleeping bags and food stuffed in trash can liners and 2-liter pop bottles filled with water. That was the hardest thing I had ever done, and I still felt it in my muscles a week later. I was so happy to be back with our parents and that cooler full of food the next day. But a feeling of accomplishment from that hike remained. Years would pass before I returned. The seed was planted to hike the Appalachian Trail. 6 years later, I'm a young man pursuing a college degree in tip-top shape, having completed training as an Army soldier. And then one day, I'm involved in an automobile accident. My arm is pinned underneath the truck. I was lucky to be alive. That could have been my head under that truck. A team of doctors saved my arm with pins, plates, and screws. That day, I learned the most powerful lesson in life. Never bank on your health. When you put off a dream or a goal, you're assuming your health will be there in the future. I decided I was going to go after my dreams. That Appalachian Trail experience came back to me. I wanted to hike. I returned to the Great Smoky Mountains, this time with the right gear. On that excursion, a feeling of confidence warmed my body and mind. I felt alive once again. I began to wonder, what would it be like to walk every day for 6 months with my only worries being food, shelter, and sleep, similar to our nomadic ancestors? I decided I was going to walk the Appalachian Trail. This is no easy feat. The Appalachian Trail, also known as the AT, spans for 2,000 miles through 14 states from Georgia to Maine along the spine of the Appalachian mountain range. Each year, thousands of people attempt this journey in one season. But according to the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, 75% of those don't finish. With good reason. The distance is equivalent to 83 marathons, with an elevation gain similar to climbing Mount Everest 16 times. And this expedition would take 4 to 6 months. There was a real possibility I might not make it, but I would rather look back and say, at least I attempted it, instead of, I wished I would have. Even in the free world, there are those among us that, due to physical or intellectual disabilities, cannot communicate their dreams or take a single step. I couldn't think past my brother Aaron, born with cerebral palsy. He's relying on others for all of his daily needs. When he became too big for my family to care for him, we discovered Sunshine Communities, an Ohio-based organization that supports over 500 people with disabilities. Sunshine became an extension to our family. I wanted to share my adventure with my brother and give back to Sunshine for providing such great care of him by hiking as a fundraiser. My walk became more than a journey of self-discovery. It became a walk for Sunshine. I began preparing for my adventure in the final semester of graduate school. When I shared the cause I was going to walk for, people united with me. Student groups collected donations in campus dining halls. Vendors donated food and supplies. Reporters interviewed me. I spoke to civic groups to spread the word and raise money. A group of family and volunteers jumped in, and together we turned this into an annual charity for Sunshine. I assembled all the necessary gear, maps, and guidebooks. My parents would send 22 supply boxes to trail towns along the way. I physically trained and tested my gear, and on March 1st, I began my walk for Sunshine. My parents drove me down to the southern terminus of the Appalachian Trail, Springer Mountain in Georgia. I waved goodbye and headed off. My journey had begun. About 8 miles into my hike, my feet hurt really bad. One blister's painful. I had over a half a dozen blisters forming on each foot. Hikers use this thing called moleskin to prevent blisters. What you do is you cut a square off, apply it to the hot spot, hopefully preventing the blister. I went through the entire pack in less than 2 hours. My feet looked as if I had stepped in glue and walked through confetti. Now, out of moleskin, I wrap my feet in duct tape. Come to find out, in all the excitement to live my dreams, I inadvertently put the arch supports in the wrong boots. Earned my trail name on day one, wrong foot. Hikers take on names other than themselves on the trail. I gave myself this name to remind myself to laugh. Humor is a powerful tool. Many times, all I needed was a good laugh on the trail. The second day of my journey, the temperature had plummeted to 20 degrees and remained below freezing for the next 30 days. I took shelter in an old ranger's cabin. There are 3 walled shelters spaced 10 to 12 miles apart all along the Appalachian Trail. All you're thinking about is food on the trail. After cooking dinner over my 1-burner stove, I zipped into my sleeping bag, wrote in my journal, and faded off to sleep, dreaming about food, only to be awakened at some point in the night by something walking on me. I nervously grabbed my flashlight, turned it on, aimed it down. There was a skunk on my sleeping bag. I kicked it, it jumped off, the tail went up in the air. I thought for sure it was going to spray me. Instead, it runs off. I light a candle, place it nearby, thinking the light will keep it away. Nope, apparently it can see better. It jumps back up on my sleeping bag, kneads it like a cat, plunks down between my knees. Wrong foot slept all night with a skunk. I crossed my first state line about 80 miles into my hike. This is cause to celebrate if you're gonna hike the Appalachian Trail. You don't cross these every day. You're walking through 14 states. I did my first state line jig. Georgia, North Carolina. Then it hit me. What I'm gonna celebrate tomorrow and each day after that. And that's when it all came together, right there. I need to find something to celebrate each day. It turned out it was the simple little things that got me through the hardest of days. I walked through more rainy days than sunny days. I would celebrate that hot cup of coffee that I sipped on as I sat beneath that dry shelter roof, knowing I'm gonna walk all day in the rain. I slipped and fell from exhaustion 2 or 3 times a day. I would lay there and eat a Snicker bar and celebrate. If I could think of nothing else, I would celebrate that I had the physical ability to take this walk. I'd stop into towns along the trail at least once a week to pick up my supply box sent to me from my parents. And I would write a postcard and send it back to my brother at Sunshine to share my experience. His caregivers would thumbtack the postcard next to a map to follow along. Knowing I was walking for my brother kept me going. And there are always care packages for me at each post office sent to me from people back home that wanted to support me. The first annual Walk with Sunshine, inspired from my hike, occurred while I was on the trail. I had tears well up in my eyes that day, knowing this had become way bigger than myself. Big goals are accomplished by breaking them down into smaller daily tasks. On the Appalachian Trail, that meant averaging 12 miles a day to make this entire journey in one season. It's much easier to look at 12 miles as opposed to the whole distance. It's a tradition to eat a half gallon of ice cream midway. You're burning calories equivalent to running 2 marathons every day. My friend Beth, who I wanted to develop a deeper relationship with, met up with me in Virginia near Shenandoah National Park. And I looked more like a fugitive on the run as opposed to an eligible bachelor with my new beard. So I got a beard trim before she arrived and ate a large pizza as a snack. As we sat in a restaurant having dinner, instead of looking her in her eyes and saying something romantic, I couldn't look past the chicken breast on her plate. She ordered a scoop of ice cream, I ordered 2, and then I ordered 2 more. The next morning, I bought a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts. Beth nibbled on half a donut. I ate 10 and a half and then went to breakfast with her. Thankfully, Wrongfoot's food binge didn't ruin our relationship. We got married the following year and emerged from the church with backpacks on, ready to walk through the journey of life together. even with celebrating something, there was no easy day. I walked through extreme conditions from sub-zero temperatures to over 100 degrees. In spite of the hardships, though, the only time I didn't think I was going to make it was when I sprained my ankle when I post-holed through a 10-foot snowdrift in the Great Smoky Mountains. One day, I sat down for lunch in Pennsylvania, and when I stood up, I realized that I had just dined next to a coiled-up rattlesnake. You're in moose country, the last 3 states of the AT, and I was frustrated because I hadn't seen a moose. Then one day, as I walked along in Maine, through the quiet stillness of the morning forest, where the sub-canopy is still weighted down by the dew, and you hear nothing but birds chirp, all of a sudden, I heard tree branches snap. I thought for sure this was a moose. Then without warning, a large bear charged right at me. It stopped 10 feet away. It was a bluff charge, but you don't know it's a bluff charge until afterward. My heartbeat returns to normal. I continue walking, and then I heard a tree branch snap. Out from the trees emerged a moose. I believe our Creator has a sense of humor and threw the bear in for kicks before allowing me to see the moose. There's a saying on the trail, no pain, no rain, no Maine. Ibuprofen is referred to as vitamin I. On any given day, I was cold, hot, wet, tired, hungry. I had rashes, blisters, and bug bites. But I was the happiest guy alive. Positive thoughts coursed through my mind constantly. The hiking mantra is, the lighter the pack, the more enjoyable the journey. You quickly eliminate items in your pack that you don't need and bog you down. To me, it's also a metaphor, because every time I head into the woods, I'm able to declutter my mind and realign with my priorities. One day as I walked along, it hit me how quiet the world really is. I could hear the tree creak as it blew in the wind like a rocking chair on a porch. I could hear the squirrel scurry up the bark. I began to hear myself. I was starting to have thoughts I had never had before. I had never stepped away from society for a lengthy period like this. Ideas were popping into my mind effortlessly. I was solving world problems out here. And now there is scientific evidence to back all of this up. A 2008 study found that the increased tolerance for pain and euphoria, but from endurance exercise, also known as runner's high, is real. A 2012 study found that after 4 days in nature, your creativity and productivity, or your creativity and problem solving go up 50%. And a 2015 study found that a 90-minute walk in nature increases your positive thoughts and prevents depression. On July 25th, after 147 days, I summited the northern terminus of the Appalachian Trail, Mount Katahdin in Maine, joined by my family. Even though I had physically reached the end, it didn't feel like it because Aaron wasn't on the mountain to celebrate with me. It was a few days later, when I returned back home, I was able to celebrate with Aaron. He had a smile from ear to ear. And then in my heart, I celebrated my Mount Katahdin. An entire community united with my walk, and it evolved into an annual Sunshine Walk, Run, and Roll. It's a positive way for my family and the community to come out and support my brother in Sunshine and people with disabilities. My dad even dresses as our bear mascot. Thousands have joined us, and we've raised over $500,000 for people with disabilities. But our walk does even more. People with disabilities benefit from nature too. Each year, people of all ages and all abilities walk and roll with us on a nature path. This proved to me that if you have a good idea that can benefit others, you can make a difference by taking that first step. We've had our children on the trail with us since birth. Those seeds you plant at the youngest of ages will pay off. There's much more in nature than anything viewed on a flat panel screen or heard through earbuds. Scientists are now discovering what us hiker junkies have known for a long time. A walk in nature is good for us cognitively. Everyone, personally and professionally, should utilize the benefits of nature. Imagine a world where people are happier, more creative, more productive, and better problem solvers. Live your best life. Take a hike.